Welcome to HitPoint Weekly. My name is Brandon, and I am joined by the lovely Canadian from up north,
Donny K.
Donny. Whoa, you're dropping the K in there too, huh?
That's the online alias, dude.
Dude, doxing himself
They'll
live
never find out.
on the inaugural. Not gonna try that word.
Inaugural.
Yeah, episode of HitPoint Weekly. It's a gaming podcast where we're gonna talk about games, video game news, video games we've been playing. But this week is E3.
Other interesting stuff.
Oh, what's the other interesting stuff?
I don't know. What if I find something interesting to tell you?
Dude, that's fair. And interesting tidbits from Donny K. Today is June 10th of 2019, and I think we're going to start with the Microsoft presser that happened yesterday. That sound all right with you? You want to start with Microsoft, or is there somewhere else you want to start?
Take it away, mister. Microsoft's all you.
All right. So Microsoft was the biggest one for sure, the biggest conference this year for sure. They announced like 60-something games. We're not going to go through all of them because that would be insane and ridiculous, but we will talk about a couple of them. A lot of them we're just going to kind of breeze through, but there's some bigger ones that we'll probably stop and talk about a bit. Starting off, we've got Psychonauts 2 was announced, as well as the fact that Double Fine, the studio that makes Psychonauts, led by the famous/infamous, depending on how you look at him, Tim Schafer, they joined Xbox Game Studios. So that's a thing. It seems like Microsoft is buying up all the studios lately. I think they bought like 10, 12 studios or something in like the past year.
I think the
So
interesting implication behind all these studio acquisitions is how stacked Microsoft's lineup is looking to be for the start of the next console generation.
Dude, I think that was the entire point. I think you look at like this generation specifically, like you look at the PlayStation versus the Xbox, and the thing that people always point to is Xbox just doesn't have the exclusives compared to Microsoft or Sony, excuse me.
Well, I personally think that the Xbox interface was always better and more user-friendly. It's literally just the exclusives that have kept Sony going, but we're getting a little sidetracked. So Psychonauts 2 is a weird one out of left field there. I guess people, not out of left field, but people have been requesting that since April 2005 when the original game came out. I was 8 years old when that game came out.
I feel like it's one that a lot of people are calling for, but not really actually wanting. I feel like it's got a cult following.
I think it's become a bit of a joke by now. The original game wasn't a huge release, but for sure, definitely, I would use the term cult following. Psychonauts 2 has been announced in the good year 2019, and all I'm saying is Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Dude, Half-Life 3 confirmed. Did Valve announce? Has Valve even I don't even think Valve was at the PC game show.
I don't think we've heard anything from Valve. Which there was rumors like last month or whatever that they were working on a big new title for that fancy VR thing they got going on, and
yeah, they did say they've got a flagship VR game.
I think they even said that it was something about us waiting a long time for this new title or whatever. But rip Valve.
Dude, rip Valve. I don't know if this is rumor territory and we are getting super off track here, but I think there's a Half-Life spin-off game for VR in development. I've heard that multiple times. I couldn't pull a source out of my ass to save my life. That's a thing, supposedly.
So what other interesting things did Microsoft tell us about?
So I'm going to burn through a couple of these real quick, all right? So there's new Battletoads, right?
Yep. And that has re-sparked the meme of do you know anything about calling the Pawn Stars store and asking them about Battletoads?
All right. So Battletoads, back to Battletoads. What were you saying here about the meme involving Pawn Stars? Is that a thing?
So a few years ago now, let's see, it is dated to 2012. I guess it was a thing to call the Pawn Star shop because they're open 24/7 according to this green text, and they would just ask them in very elaborate ways if they had any Battletoads for sale, and it's quite good.
Dude, that's actually fantastic. Yeah, new Battletoads coming. Phil Spencer, he's got to be happy about that. I know he's a Battletoads fan. There's a new game from Ninja Theory and Ronnie Tucker, I'm probably butchering that name. He's one of the directors from Devil May Cry 5 called Bleeding Edge. If I remember correctly, that one is a 4-player, like, competitive brawler, fighter, shooter type deal. It very much reminded me of Overwatch, like, I got Overwatch vibes from it. Um, that one wasn't really, not a whole lot to go off of on that one. There is the From Software George R.R. Martin collaboration. We've got a title for that,
Elden Ring. That looks
Elden
pretty
Ring.
good. And a logo.
And did you watch the trailer for that?
I was at work when it dropped.
That's fair. It gave very little information, but boy oh boy was it trippy, and it looked like a FromSoft it looked like a FromSoft game for
Well,
sure.
essentially, what I've heard, at least in the realm of Dark Souls to Sekiro, it's going to be more Dark Souls with a giant open world kind of deal.
Dude, that would be beautiful. I'm a huge Souls fan, so I'm all right with that. Get George R. R. Martin building me a Dark Souls world.
When's he
Fuck
gonna
yeah, dude.
finish the books?
He's never gonna finish the books. The books are never gonna be finished. I've accepted this. All right, so after Elden Ring, which looks awesome, well, looks interesting. I'm not gonna say looks awesome because we haven't seen much, but there was one that kind of stood out to me that I'm surprised. Like I was going through like the top announcements for E3, and I didn't really see it on a lot of the lists. 12 minutes. Did you see anything about 12 minutes?
I have no idea what you're speaking.
So the trailer for it, well, the gameplay that we saw of it slash trailer, I don't know what it was. The announcement for it that we saw looked very, very interesting. Um, if you're a sucker for indie like psychological thrillers, mystery, horror, like that sort of stuff, it looked very much like it would be right up your alley. It is a game where basically you're playing a character who he's trying to he's like for some reason stuck in this time loop that's resetting like every, I'm assuming, 12 minutes based on the title of the game. But basically his wife comes in and is like, I'm pregnant. He's like, yeah, I already knew that, we've been here before. By the way, there's somebody who's going to bust down our door in a minute, and he's going to say that you killed your dad, and we got to figure this out. And everybody freaks out, the guy busts down the door, and the loop starts over, right? So it's
According
like,
to the official E3 Twitter, 12 minutes is like Groundhog Day with murder, and that actually gets me pretty excited.
yeah. So I'm a sucker for like those indie games that have like a mystery and an element of like intrigue to them, like a Night in the Woods, fantastic game.
Side note,
Freaking
A Night in the Woods got a physical release announcement by Limited Run Games, which we will get to.
dude, nice. And then outside of that, before we get to the big stuff, aka Halo, there was Cyberpunk 2077. I say, did I just relegate Cyberpunk 2077 to like the bench warmers? Did I just do that?
You sure did, buddy.
Oof, oof. I kind of skipped down my list a little bit. Cyberpunk was up at the top.
Do we want to get back? take a second and then maybe roll that back there.
No, we're good. We're good. We're gonna leave that in. Cyberpunk 2077. It's got a release date. It's coming out. Uh,
Yeah, CD Project's Red. CD Project's
dude, try again. CD Project Red.
CD Project Red's next big project is coming out in April of next year, which is a little later than I was hoping. Actually, I was hoping for maybe a holiday this year release, but
I mean, it sounds like they've pushed it back internally a couple times, and it sounds like they like wanted to add more features. I can't remember if is the game first person or is the game third person. I want to say it's first person.
I remember it being a first-person shooter, but that was
Yeah.
already all the way last year.
So there was like talk about them wanting to add like a third person mode to be able to like optionally switch in and out of the two. But then what I heard was some of the developers were saying in order to rework everything to make it like functional, they just don't have the time to do it, so they're just rolling with the first person thing. Um, but like that's one of those games that I want to come out sooner than later, but I also want it to be really good. So like if they they could tell me it was coming out in 2022, and I'd be like, take your time,
Well, it's right in
take
the
your time,
title, man. It's coming out in 2077.
dude. I don't know that I'm gonna be here in 2077. That's a long ways away, dude. Is the world even gonna be here in 2077?
Not at this rate, but you know what is here now? Microsoft's E3 press conference.
Dude, hell yeah. So, yeah, do you have anything else on Cyberpunk 2077 other than Keanu's in it? Keanu
Uh,
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves in his second appearance in a video game right after Fortnite.
Third, there's Matrix games, dude. I'm sure he's got more credits than that in his video game history.
Second major recent video game release.
Dude, that's fair. Oh wait, also isn't there a John Wick game? Isn't there a John Wick VR game?
I think there's a John Wick game rumored.
I'm pretty sure there's a John Wick VR game. Yeah, there's a John Wick VR game.
Sick, dude.
but yeah, Keanu, he's breathtaking if you didn't miss that part. But yeah, looks fantastic, coming out in April 16th. I've got it put down as 2016. That's not right. 2020 is the actual release date there. So
damn, dude, we could have been playing the game for the last 3 years.
But yeah, so then moving on to like some actual Microsoft news. They talked a lot about Project xCloud. They talked a little bit more about that. There was this big emphasis that they kept harping on, that like Phil Spencer hopped up on stage and he would say it, and then like everybody who would come up after would like parrot it. Apparently one of their big goals with the direction of Xbox and gaming is they want people to be able to play what they want, when they want, and where they want to play it. So xCloud, if you haven't heard of it, it is their streaming service that's going to be coming out, where you'll be able to stream to, I think, the Nintendo Switch, your consoles. You'll be able to stream to your phone, tablets, computers. It sounds like they want to put it literally everywhere. So
right, and how good of an internet connection is someone going to have to play this game is the real question.
You know, I imagine it's probably going to be in line with the Stadia requirements. I would assume so. I mean, the big thing there is it's video being sent over the internet, and like I think that the current ways that we can do that are somewhat limited, and they're all probably going to be about the same, you know, latency, and have the same like internet requirements as far as
right.
You know,
well, I believe the original suggested specs for the Stadia are still only 30 megs per second.
Yeah, I think it's 35 for 4K, 20 for 1080, and 10 for 720.
Right,
off the top of my head.
In line with what Netflix tells you.
Yeah, so I mean, I would assume that Project xCloud is going to be about the same. Another interesting thing was they said that they were going to make it so that your Xbox console could be your private xCloud server, which kind of makes sense. They've already got like the Xbox streaming going on, where you can stream from your console to a computer. Or I think they've even got it working on phones and shit over your home network. So it's just kind of an extension of that, really. So if you're looking forward to the streaming future of video games, like I'm not, that's something to look forward to. Also, they announced their next Xbox, Project SCARLETT. It's going to be coming in holidays of 2020. And it's supposedly 4 times more powerful than the Xbox One X, which is pretty impressive, because the Xbox One X is actually like a decently powerful console.
What I'm interested in is the promise of 8K in a console that costs half as much as any modern computer that struggles to deliver 4K. So I brought up at work, and it was a very interesting conversation to be had.
So like you look at like the way the Xbox One X does 4K, and a lot of the games that it does, it fakes 4K a lot. Like it does things like checkerboard rendering, where like
sure, and the PS4 Pro is even worse than the One X is for. So
I imagine a lot of it's going to be trickery and upscaling and dynamic resolutions, where it'll let you hit 8K at certain points, but like when it gets more demanding, it scales it back a bit. Like there's no way they're hitting 8K.
Here's the real question: who asked for this?
A new Xbox or 8K?
8K gaming.
Nobody. It's just you've got 8K displays finally starting to come out. They're just trying to say, hey, our console is for the future, right? That's what they're trying to do there. They're trying to.
Sure, but I'm always a proponent of higher frame rates over visual fidelity in most games. And actually, another interesting announcement was the fact that it'll support up to 120 frames natively.
Yep. And FreeSync, although that's not anything new. The Xbox currently supports FreeSync. So
show me a TV that does 120 frames properly. And
there's quite a few of them these days. They're the higher end TVs, but there's a lot of them that'll do 120 native.
A decent amount of them are fake 120, I thought.
So that used to be the case, and I'm sure it still is on the lower end, but I know I've seen like multiple reviews for TVs lately where they made a point to say, hey, at 1080p, at least on a lot of them will have like a special HDMI port that is the one that's like made for gaming. and but a lot, probably a, a good a handful for sure. I'm not going to say a specific number because I fucking don't know, but I've definitely seen multiple TV reviews recently where they made a point to be like, this is not fake 120, this is real 120. The 240 is fake. The 240 on this TV is fake, but the 140, I mean the 120, that's real. So yeah, and also that's the thing going into the future. I'm sure that's going to become more and more common. There's a demand for it. One thing I've seen people saying is they think that they're going to get 8K at 120 FPS, and I was like, you're a fucking lunatic, dude.
Yeah, so that was my understanding the first time, and I guess I just saw it in image, really see the announcement, and I thought that was ridiculous because a computer that you have paid $3,000 for, Canadian, of course, because exchange rates.
So what is that,
Uh,
like 120 US?
yeah, you could probably get like a burger at McDonald's or something for that much, but yeah, so a computer that you pay this ridiculous amount of money for struggles to run 4K at any decent 4K at any decent speed. So the idea that a $500 console could run 8K at 120 is just
Yeah,
so
it's ludicrous.
ridiculous a thought.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. People need to tone back their expectations. It's going to be very much a title dependent thing. Not all
Yeah,
games are going to run
it
high
can
frame.
run 8K 120 frames in what? The original Doom?
Right? Well, and it's going to be one of those things where like some games this generation have allowed you to kind of toggle settings a little bit on console to or to like take a preference for frame rate or like graphical
Of course,
fidelity.
which is a very good thing.
And if they start doing that, I imagine it's going to be like, hey, play at 1080p, higher frame rate, or play at
Right.
4K and run at potato quality, because that's what games on console generally lean towards. They'll shoot for the high frame rate or the high resolution, and you know take a huge hit to a frame rate to do so. But yeah, so that was a console that was announced. Apparently, the chip that's going to be in it is going to be, I believe it's going to be an APU again, but it's going to be incorporating aspects of Zen 2, AMD's new microprocessor architecture they just announced, as well
Their
as parts
microprocessor
of
architecture that's set up to destroy Intel this
Intel.
generation.
Yeah, and Navi as well from their graphics side, which is less impressive from what we've seen so far. But hey, this custom chip's supposed to be the bomb. So the last big one for Microsoft after their new console, which we didn't see anything of other than like very early prototyped main boards, which probably weren't even like real. It was probably just like random trash that they like threw together to shoot some B-roll of.
Oh,
But
10 minutes before the conference, one of the interns at Microsoft had to Google image search mainboard components.
dude, I wouldn't doubt it based on what we saw there. The last thing is Halo Infinite is coming, and they made a point to say it's going to be a next gen Halo experience. It's coming on the next gen consoles as well as PC.
Well, that would be an interesting game to start off your year with the new Xbox coming out. That would be a great launch title, especially for their window of holiday 2020. Right around Christmas, you get some consoles moving, you get Halo Infinite moving.
Yeah, dude, that's like a fantastic way to just sell a bunch of units. I'll buy it just for Halo. Although if it's on PC, I'm just gonna play it on PC. But one thing I will say, so the trailer was awesome. 343 does fantastic work with their cinematics, and like they really know how to like make you connect to a character that you don't know in like 30 seconds. They're real good at that. But one thing I will say is all the footage I've seen of Halo Infinite looks off to me. Have you seen like any of the in-engine Halo Infinite stuff?
No, not yet.
Like it looks good, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Like it looks almost like a step backwards. It looks wrong for some reason.
Every Halo trailer recently by 343 has almost been like, "Oh, who's this? Who is this?" And then they always have Master Chief covered in one way or another just to have the cheap kind of "Oh, it was Master Chief" reveal. And
Right.
it's a bit of an old hat at this point that they keep just having cheap Master Chief reveals, like as if we didn't expect it to be Master Chief. Although I will give the original Halo 6 Infinite, once again proving that Microsoft doesn't know how to count. That reveal trailer I really enjoyed. Not being a huge fan of Halo, I still found it rather interesting, and the reveal really felt like it paid off when you finally saw Master Chief, which I know I was just complaining about, but I thought that was a good original reveal slash tease.
Dude, it was good. Like I say, I was like all on board team unnamed pilot within like 30 seconds of that trailer starting. Like he's going to be a throwaway character in the game if he's even in the game. But that trailer pulled you in, dude. It was a good trailer. They know how to make a trailer for sure. But yeah, so Halo Infinite, that's a thing that's going to be coming. Also, they did some very brief updates on the Master Chief Collection. That's still rolling along. Going to be bringing Reach to the PC as the first part of that. I think they've got a beta coming up later this month.
And
But
of course, I don't understand too much. Maybe you can elaborate, but they have now they've announced Xbox Live or Gold for PC, and there's all those different. Now there's like Xbox Ultimate or something on PC.
Xbox Games Pass for Windows, is that the official name? Something like
I
that.
think it's for PC, not for Windows. I think Microsoft is trying to move Windows Game Store and kind of just make themselves more a PC game.
Oh, they're sorry.
No, I just said game. I was done.
No, they definitely are. Like they're releasing a lot of their stuff on Steam. Obviously the like Xbox Game Pass for PC thing that's not gonna be on Steam. That's gonna be through their store or through the new Xbox app that they just released, like the Xbox. It's the Xbox Console Companion app. I wouldn't be surprised if it's all done through there. They replaced the like the default Xbox app on Windows with that, just barely. But the thing with that is there's going to be a bunch of games. It's going to be kind of like EA Access or Xbox Game Pass on the console, where you buy it and you get access to a library of games, right? But then on top of that, they announced like a tiered system where there's going to be like an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, I think it was called. That one gives you access to the Game Pass on Xbox, the Game Pass on PC, as well as Xbox Live Gold, and it was like $15 a month, which is pretty reasonable if you ask me. I mean,
And I believe that there's still the promotional price for $1 a month right now.
yeah, if you want to dive right in, and I think the Xbox Game Pass for PC, I think that launched like when they announced it, didn't it? Isn't it up and rolling right now? I think so. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for Microsoft. Now that we've talked out our asses for a long time on there, let's move to Squeenix real quick. Square Enix, they had their conference today. This is Donny's alley. This is Donny's wheelhouse.
Being
What?
a large Square Enix fan, there was some good content talked about today. Actually, last night we got in some sort of small press release, we got a release date for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is extremely exciting. We got the release date, which is going to be early next year, March 3rd, 2020, I believe, which is amazing. This game was announced a
2 years ago?
ridiculously long time ago. I think it was more like 3 or 4 years ago. They only teased it. They like mentioned that they were doing it, and that was about it.
Real quick question on that. I know when it originally got announced, there was talk of it being episodic in release. Like they weren't going to release the whole thing at once. They were going to do it in like pieces. Do you know if they're still planning that, or is it just the full game is coming out on that date?
Yeah, so in that press release that I announced, or that I mentioned earlier, that came out last night, there was specifically people were talking, no mention of it being episodic anymore, but Square Enix made no comment either way on it today, and we still are kind of in the dark about whether or not it'll be episodic. It could go either way right now. The release date for March 3rd is very open-ended because it doesn't say first episode March 3rd or first part March 3rd. So we have no
No
idea
idea.
right now whether or not it's going to be
That's
episodic.
a pretty aggressive date. I mean, I know the game's been in development for a couple of years now, like we've been saying, but Final Fantasy VII is a huge game. Like an era when like it was easier to make bigger games because you didn't have to fit as much detail in them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like it's a big undertaking. That's a pretty aggressive target, if you ask me. I'm sure they've got lots of people working on it, but
Well, it is a massive game for the company.
yeah.
Moving on from Final Fantasy VII, actually, quickly, side note, they announced a collector's edition, which comes with a a statue of Cloud on a motorbike and a steelbook, the general soundtrack, the general collector's edition kind of stuff, and I immediately purchased it
Of course you
for
did.
an unreleased amount of money. Square Enix has a poor habit of only having one shipping option. It's always extremely expensive. I've
Okay,
paid
you're justifying it. How much did you pay for this? How much did you pay for this like 20-year-old game?
it's not the amount of money. It's how much fun I'll have while playing this new game.
It's Canadian dollars too. That's not even real money. How much did you pay?
My total is $470.
What? Okay, that's way higher than I thought it was going to be. That is way
So
higher
the
than
collector's edition retails for $329,
US.
and the shipping, as I was talking about, Square Enix always has a bad habit of only giving one shipping option. It's always stupidly expensive. Was almost $100 in shipping.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what? I'm sure it's going to be a great game. You love the Final Fantasy series. I can't knock you for that. There's people who've spent thousands of dollars on ships in Star Citizen that they can't even look at yet. So
Nice.
$400 for a giant piece of nostalgia remade. Sure, I'm fine with that. That's fine.
So moving on from Final Fantasy VII Remake, we got Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers launch trailer, which I am extremely excited for.
Oh, I bet you're leveling up six mages right now in preparation.
Only 4. So we got a launch trailer with some interesting new lore tidbits that I don't want to get into for the sake of not being here all evening. So the original Shadowbringers trailer is what got me into Final Fantasy XIV. So it's got to be almost a year now, if not longer, since we heard about this expansion. It looks very cool. The whole concept of everything in Final Fantasy is always about bringing the light, the warrior of light, and all that kind of stuff. And now they're really focusing in on the warrior of darkness, becoming the warrior of darkness, and bringing the dark to balance the light, because balance, I guess, is important in the universe. And then after Final Fantasy XIV, there's a couple things. So Ononaki was announced with a trailer dropping, and it looked to be a cute little live, like action, like real time combat kind of thing going on here. Some cool bosses, an interesting art style. I don't think we got a release. Oh, release date is August 22nd, 2019, coming for Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PC. And of course, the big one everyone was expecting at the conference was Marvel's Avengers. Square Enix has been known to be working on an Avengers game, I think, for more than a year now. They have been talking about it, and it looks really interesting. So the story, I guess, is the Avengers caused some kind of disaster, it looks like, and now they're trying to maybe reestablish their place in society. Everyone seems to hate them and blame them for this disaster that happened, but it looks really interesting. I don't know if it's final like in-game footage, but it looks to be really cool. We got a release window, I would call it. It's May 2020, May next year. The spring of next year is looking to be very stacked with Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy VII and Avengers now. It's looking to be a very good game. Also, Avengers is coming to Stadia, interestingly enough.
I remember that.
Google's streaming service that they announced recently. And of course, the PS4 and Xbox One and PC, the normal releases. And right after Avengers, we got a surprise Final Fantasy VIII Remastered trailer, which I do believe lots of fans have been waiting on for a long time. It was weird. We had Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, and 10 all remastered and available on modern consoles, but never an 8 remaster. And now finally we get 8 remaster coming to Switch and Steam and the big platforms coming out this year, thankfully.
Dude, they're just going to redo all of them.
They more or less have at this point. I mean, some of them were so old that the remasters are now already considered old. 2 and 3 and 4 all come to mind there, but I think we're still missing 5 and 6. But I think you can play pretty much every game on modern hardware. Yeah, like I love Final Fantasy IV to death, but the remake is old enough at this point that it came out on DS back
Oof.
in the day. I played that when I was much younger. Yeah, Square Enix for me so far definitely conference of show of the conference of the show. Square Enix blew me away today with the Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy VII and Shadowbringers trailers with a couple other cool games sprinkled in there. Avengers is looking to be really good, coming out next spring. All the
One
Final Fantasy news adding
one
up.
tidbit. I'm sorry. If we start talking over each other, it's just we've got a delay over Discord, so we're not intentionally trying to be jackasses to each other. Uh, but one thing I will say is I'm not gonna like go through the cast of the game, but that fucking Avengers game has, dude, it's got an all-star cast
Oh man,
for
Nolan
voice actors.
Nolan North back at it again.
Yeah, dude. Like they had them all down on a couch, kind of joking around with each other during the conference. And if anything else, the voice acting is going to be phenomenal in that game. So
And I like they didn't take the direction of making the characters in game look exactly like their MCU counterparts.
probably because they didn't have the license for the actor's likeness. That would be my guess. But
Right, that makes sense. But I, even if they did go after, I'm glad they decided to not pursue it. I think it's an interesting angle to take with characters that aren't.
it allows you to disconnect it from like, you know, the current established canon a little bit, right? It lets you be a little more creative. It lets you possibly change their personalities a little bit without it being like super jarring.
Right, and I really like the look of Captain America there. It's
Dude,
really nice.
Tony Stark was looking handsome as fuck. All right, so EA, like I said, it was kind of a throwaway conference for me. It was a lot of updates to current and existing stuff. There's updates coming down the line for Anthem, Battlefield, Apex Legends, and more. We've got the usual yearly releases of the sports titles like FIFA and Madden. We've got new, essentially roster updates for you coming out. If you're into the sports games, those are huge money makers for EA. Like especially FIFA, they make ridiculous amounts of money on like the player market or whatever it is for that game. That's beside the point. The only thing that really stood out to me at the EA conference was Jedi Fallen Order. If you haven't been paying attention to that, it's a game where basically you are a kind of a shit tier, like I think you were a Padawan or whatever when Order 66 rolled around, and basically you're just a Jedi trying to survive in this new Empire controlled universe, and it looks phenomenal. Our boy Saw Gerrera popped back in for a minute there. He's going to be in the game apparently. But no, it's shaping up to look real good. Like everything I saw had me excited. I love me a good Star Wars game, and it's been years since we've had like a good Jedi like Star Wars game. Nothing to add there. So Bethesda. All right, so Bethesda's conference rolled around, and I'm gonna just burn through a lot of this, but there's a couple that I do want to touch on. So Fallout 76 looks like it might finally be worth picking up here in a couple months. They're adding what they should have had in the first place, and of course, I'm talking about a battle royale mode. No, I'm totally
Apparently,
joking, but they are
that's the thing to have this year.
they are adding
2019.
that. That's one of those things. If you look at my Twitter, when as they were talking about Fallout 76, they announced that they're adding NPCs and stuff to the game. So it's going to be like a real Fallout game supposedly now with like NPCs and choice and branching dialogue and yada yada yada. And I was like, cool. Finally a reason to go back to Fallout 76 because I played it for like a whole 2 days when it launched and I haven't touched it since. But so I tweeted that, and then like 2 seconds later, they announced the battle royale mode, and I was like, "Whoop, shit, never mind."
Yeah, it's the whole conference part of Fallout 76 seemed like Todd Howard was telling us all that he worked very hard on that game and really, really wanted us to buy it.
Right? Did you? So this is totally off topic, and I've heard some people saying it's fake. Did you see that clip that was going around of Todd Howard supposedly being caught on a hot mic, where like as he's walking away, he's like, "You better not bring that guy back, otherwise I'm fucking done. I'm going back to my office," or something like that. And people were thinking that it was one of like the paid actors or whatever in the like front row who like was cheering overly obnoxiously because like after that clip like at that point in the conference going forward, the guy's like much quieter or he's not there anymore, one of the two. So like they think that it was like the paid, if it's real, which who knows, because like I say, I've seen a couple places saying it's fake, but if it's real, one of the like plants in the crowd was trolling a little too hard and pissed off Todd Howard. But
That
yeah,
sucks.
I just like that he got up there and he's like, "We got criticized a little bit," and it's like, yeah, no shit, you released a very broken game that didn't really fit the franchise very well. But no, I'm excited for the Wastelanders update. Like that will get me to drop into Fallout 76 again. If it is more like a real Fallout game now, I'm happy to give it a shot at least. I already own it, so
Yeah, Bethesda had some pretty interesting things. One thing I was rather disappointed about waiting for Starfield here for since last year. They announced it. I think that showing us a little teaser and saying pretty much just saying, yeah, we're still working on this game. Works for a well-established franchise. They did it last year with Elder Scrolls 6, which we
they did it with
saw.
Starfield last year too.
Sure, they and it worked very well for Elder Scrolls 6, but I think showing us a little black background with some space and then the logo for Starfield does almost nothing for me when it's not a well-established franchise.
No, and especially when, like I say, that's literally what they showed us of Starfield last year. Like they just showed us the exact same thing again.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I guess I like to know that they're still working on the game, but of course they're still working on the game. It's a game they announced and they want to come out. So I just it seems like a bit of a misstep on Bethesda's part there that they just show
Just
me
show us
something I
some
have no attachment to.
character, like even if they're totally out of context, show us some character models, some levels, something that you're working on.
Just that it would have worked really well even if they had just done it again for Elder Scrolls 6. They could have just made us another little teaser kind of thing, but Starfield didn't really do it for me yet. Maybe probably still a pickup for me, something I'll be interested to follow, but not this year, Bethesda.
No, I'm in the exact same boat. I'm really disappointed that both Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 we just didn't get anything for this year.
One thing
Um,
we did get is a Doom 2 release date.
Dude, a Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal
Eternal.
release date. November 22nd this year. Looks like a good holiday release. Definitely a pickup for me. I loved the first new Doom, first 10th Doom.
You know what's really weird about this Doom announcement is they announced their new multiplayer. The that very much reminded me of like Evolve, where it's two monsters versus one Doom Slayer. Did you see this?
I did watch the multiplayer part of
It's
the conference.
it's weird to me to see Doom double down on a multiplayer mode again because they did that last year with the Doom multiplayer. And like, I don't know about you, but I don't play Doom for the multiplayer. you
No,
know?
Doom is very much a single player game, at least for me.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, I was watching a YouTuber talk about Doom actually, and it took them on Doom on Switch when it came out. That's what they were talking about, but it took them way too long to find a multiplayer match, if a multiplayer match was to be found at all.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's weird to me that again they're doubling down on it. I mean, I guess this is it's a smaller, more condensed, like one that you just play with a couple of your buddies, but I don't think anybody's asking for that or anybody, they just want more Doom, which is
I
what
think
they're already giving us,
I think the people just want to kill some
Demons.
gosh dang demons.
Yeah. But I mean, it's that it's that I don't know if catch 22 is the right phrase where gamers are always like, we want more of the same, but we want it different. So like developers, they try. God damn it, they try to innovate. So I can't knock them for trying. Unless you've got more on Doom, let's roll on to Elder Scrolls. Like I said, no new Elder Scrolls 6 information, but Elder Scrolls Online is getting a new DLC called Dragonhold that I guess is going to be a continuation of the Year of the Dragon event they've got going on this year, with like the latest DLC elsewhere. It's going to kind of tie into that, I'm told. And then Blades, Elder Scrolls Blades is going to be coming to the Switch,
That's
and
interesting.
it's still being
An
worked
Elder
on.
Scrolls mobile game. I wasn't too set on, but maybe if it's coming out on the Switch with actual controllers that I can play with, I'll give it a shot at least.
Well, it's going to be coming to PC too eventually, and they've even said that Blades they want you to be able to play anywhere. So Yeah, that one. I think by the time everything's said and done, Blades is probably going to be on everything.
Right, and the original, the Blades announcement, originally, I do believe it was mentioned a few months ago, reminded me of the, recently has reminded me of the Diablo fiasco where we were asked if we have cell phones to play the Diablo mobile game on.
It wasn't quite that bad because Bethesda they've dropped into the mobile before with Fallout Shelter. But yeah, I
Right,
remember
which
feeling
very good.
cheated last E3 when they were like, or maybe it was Gamescom, one of the two, where they were like they started like teasing Elder Scrolls and they showed Skyrim and then they started teasing Elder Scrolls again and it was Blades. And I was like, what the fuck, you guys?
I do
Elder Scrolls
personally
6,
think
where you at?
a little bit too much on the in the mobile games department this E3 actually. I guess the developers see where the industry is going a little more than me, and I know that there's a
It's
ton
the
of money to
publishers,
be
not the
made.
developers, I guarantee it.
The people see where the industry is going and where there is money to be made, and unfortunately, that appears to be in mobile games, at least for now, and the casual market. So they're really focusing on that. But I
Yeah.
think personally, E3 is the place to show off your big console releases. The casual market is not watching E3,
E3.
and the casual market is not interested in E3. I think that's where you show your Dooms and your Elder Scrolls Sixes and your Starfields. And
Well,
you don't talk about mobile games, at least to the extent that some publishers and developers were this week.
the thing you have to keep in mind is E3 used to be like it used to be for investors and industry professionals. Like it
Right, it's
only
only
recently
recently become
became
a show
consumer
for
centric.
gamers.
Right. But I think that the reason why they're like showing these things so heavily is because I think that a lot of the investors and like the bigwigs with the money, they pay attention to E3.
Right,
So
I'm not too interested in mobile games, but
no, me
maybe
neither.
I'm not the target audience here.
And
Anything
unfortunately,
else?
that's the way the industry seems to be going. So the last one, well, there's two more. There's Deathloop, which is made by Arcane Studios. It's the guys who made Dishonored and Prey, and it's a two-player game about a loop that the characters have to get out of, and they think that the way they have to get out of it is to kill each other. It was kind of vague. I didn't really understand what was happening, but
I thought we
looks
already talked about
interesting.
12 minutes.
Nope, this is yeah, exactly. That's a theme this year, loops. So that was a thing, but the one that two more. There's also Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is going to be co-op Wolfenstein, so that's cool. I'm sure
Yeah,
it's.
DLC, I believe, or is it a whole new game?
I thought it was a whole new game, but I could have
Okay.
been wrong. Yeah, I thought it was a new game, but maybe it's DLC. But co-op multiplayer, I'm sure it's going to piss off the vocal minority who hates women in their video games.
Classic. Did
Because
we get a release date for that Wolfenstein?
if we did, I didn't jot it down. But the one that I'm really excited about, and this is the last one we'll touch on Bethesda, is Ghostwire Tokyo
Oh, that I
by
saw that trailer. That looks cool.
Tango Gameworks, and it's the same guys who made The Evil Within. And boy, oh boy, does that look interesting! It looks like people in Tokyo are disappearing, and you've got to figure out why and what. And it looks
My
like a
question is
paranormal
if
thriller.
is there a Thanos snap tie-in? Is that why everyone is disappearing?
Dude, do you think Squeenix is in on it? And this ties in the two games are part of the same universe? Oh my god, did
Avengers.
the Avengers make Tokyo disappear? did we put two and two together?
Well,
Is that why the Avengers are hated?
Avengers 2020 and Tokyo Ghost Note confirmed MCU.
But yeah, that one looks super interesting. The graphics looked pretty top. I assuming that was in-game footage or in-engine footage. It looks interesting. I'm gonna play that one for sure. So,
And did we get a release date for that guy?
like I say, if we got it, I did not jot it down. Oh, last thing, they've got their new streaming service, Orion, because Bethesda, like everybody else, needs a game streaming service.
I
So they
mean, their
announced
launcher is
Orion.
already bad. Why do they need to add anything else?
Yeah, they claim that they've got some groundbreaking technology that's going to reduce latency, but the proof will
So
be in the
does
pudding.
everyone else.
And like most people who would be listening to this podcast, if people listen to this podcast,
Hi, Reddit.
hi Reddit, I don't think they care about streaming that much. So,
Chivalry 2 is a very good looking game.
oh, dude,
Yeah, so finally a sequel. I don't know if I would say long awaited. I didn't play the original and I don't know how many people were waiting for the sequel, but
I played
It's
the shit out of the original when it came out for a good couple months there. Chivalry was dope.
it seems like a rather large game, and a sequel has been in the works. So it looks very interesting in its very realistic looking siege gameplay and sword fights.
It falls into the category of games that are like, and granted they're very different, but at the same time they fall into the category of games where it's games that people are super excited about while they wait for Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord to come out, like that and Mordhau and all those other games like that. Like people just want they want Mountain Blade, and in the meantime they'll take anything that lets you swing a sword at another dude.
Yeah, Chivalry 2 looks super cool. Cool little drop to have today.
Yeah.
Coming later this year.
I can't believe that didn't make my list because that was one I was super excited about when they dropped it in the conference earlier today.
Telling Lies is another good look. Have you played Her Story?
I haven't. I watched bits and pieces of it though.
So Her Story was a experimental kind of storytelling game.
That was the
Um,
FMV like live video footage, right?
Yeah, and
Like
now
actors and stuff.
Telling Lies is very similar. I think the premise is that you're looking through NSA confiscated NSA footage. It's an interesting gameplay concept, and you have to kind of piece together the story. It looks like there's 4 main characters that you're trying to get the story from, I guess. And we don't have a great idea of what the game is so far, but or a release date, in fact. And I remember seeing this game back in it's got to be 2017. We saw this game originally. It's interesting to see more what I guess I would call gameplay, a little bit of just sleuthing through the videos they were doing. I heard a quote that said they recorded more than 10 hours of video footage for this game for you to sift through. So that should be pretty good, pretty dang good.
I know Her Story was a kind of a cult hit, so I'm sure there's people out there looking forward to it.
It should
Real
be good.
quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just, like, ooh,
Right.
ah.
Just some real quick ones to breeze through that we touched on, or that they touched on. Like you said, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming, Borderlands 3 is coming, and Terraria something or other. There was a Terraria announcement also coming, question mark. I don't know if that was a new game in the Terraria line or if it was like an expansion or something, but Terraria, there's more of it.
If you're interested, just Google
Mhm.
Terraria. I'm sure something will come up.
Yep, it will. So, moving on, am I going to Ubisoft or are you going to
I was
yours?
going to talk about Limited Run, a company I'm very interested in. If you don't know, Limited brings indie or old games to the physical form that developers otherwise might not be able to afford to do themselves. Some of their more popular recent ones, such as Ukulele, Firewatch, um, Shantae, that the series, you know, the girl with the purple hair,
The
and
Genie Girl.
Octodad and the Deadliest Catch. That was a pretty popular one. They brought that guy to PS4. But so I was very excited to see what they had to bring today. And I've been buying like I mentioned earlier, they do older games sometimes, a bit of older games, and they've been doing the Jack and Daxter series. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar. But I've bought Jack 1, 2, and 3 so far, and I've been waiting for the announcement of Jack X Combat Racing, and I thought for sure that was going to be announced today, but it wasn't. Thank you, Limited Run Games. But there was, in fact, some very interesting things. They announced their support for the 3DS of all things today with the Atui collection. A good collection of much loved indie games on the 3DS now coming to physical. Blaster Master Zero, a Switch game that needs a physical release. I'm just going to start blasting through these. One high point of the Limited Run Games conference today was that they aren't quite done with the Vita yet. They have been a huge supporter of the Vita long after Sony has given up first party support, and they announced many titles for it, including an Atari Flashbacks collection. Papers, Please is a very interesting looking game. Pix the Cat. And their big release they mentioned today, though, they are bringing Power Rangers Battle for the Grid physically to Switch and PS4. So Limited Run Games, Vita, Night in the Woods is also physically coming to Switch and PS4. They have many interesting things lined up for later this year. But the big one, Secret of Monkey Island for PC, and the special edition. But the big one that they announced.
How many big ones are you gonna do? The
Oh,
big one.
that's how big it is. No, there's
The
only
big
one
one.
big one, and it is that they are bringing a bunch of old Star Wars games to the PS4 and PC, including Bounty Hunter, Dark Forces, Racer, Empire Strikes Back, Jedi Knight 2 and 3, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, Racer Revenge, Rebel Assault, TIE Fighter, X-Wing, and so many other interesting Star Wars games finally getting a physical release. Old Star Wars games, the classics. I, for one, am very excited for Jedi Knight Academy. And just to finish up with limited run games here, they also announced Super Meat Boy, a very popular game that everyone must know. And out of left field, Turok and Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, some old dinosaur-based first-person shooters from the 90s on the Nintendo 64, games from my childhood. I, for one, will probably be picking those up. Shout out to Limited Run Games for being so awesome and bringing these games physically that might not ever have the chance again. Turok on the Switch, though, I am stoked for that.
Dude,
I don't know why. I'm gonna go shoot me some dinosaurs, though.
dude, I think a lot of people are gonna grab Turok just for the nostalgia factor.
Oh yeah, dinosaur first-person shooter.
All right, let's blast through Ubisoft and wrap this up. All right,
No one cares.
so moving on to Ubisoft, we have there's more content in the works for Ghost Recon Breakpoint, because of course there is, and also there's new Rainbow Six Quarantine is this what this one's called. It's like a paranormal, almost looked like zombie something or other installment in the Rainbow Six franchise. There was a new game from the creators of Assassin's Creed, I believe it was,
Oh,
and it looked like it had like
are
a
you
very
talking about
much
the Odyssey game?
the Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters. Yeah, that looks real good. Almost
Mhm.
like Breath of the Wild mixed with Greek mythology. I'm very excited to play that game. It's interesting that a developer that only released, because they confirmed that was the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team, and the developer that only released a 100 plus hour game last October has already got a new game, because they gave us a release date of February next year, I believe, and that's a crazy amount of turnaround.
I'm sure they've been working on it internally for a while. A lot of studios, especially the bigger ones like that, they'll have multiple projects in the works at the same time.
Of course, but that's just, I don't know. That's two huge games
It is
back to
quick.
back. It's very interesting to see. I hope that game is very good. It looks quite nice.
Yeah, it's got a cool art style for sure. And then the last one, the big one, is Watch Dogs Legion, which it looks like, dude, it looked. Yeah, I will say it looked interesting. It looks like instead of focusing on one character, they're gonna focus on like a big cast of characters that
Oh,
you
you
like
got
jump
some
between.
killer grannies there,
Killer
dude.
grannies, dude. Grandma kicked fucking ass in the trailer, and it was beautiful. And I don't know, it looks interesting. It looks like DedSec is back, and they're up to some mischief, and in a futuristic London. So,
Interestingly enough, about 2-3 hours before the conference, the Watch Dogs 3 box art actually leaked, and last week sometime, the Watch Dogs 3 announcement leaked. It kind of sucks that we're living in a world where almost nothing can be
is
a
secret.
surprise anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard rumors of uh, a London or a Watch Dogs based in London for a while now. So
Right. Yeah. So personally, almost everything and of any interest has leaked or was already well known this year for E3, and I've completely avoided all Nintendo uh, spoilers for the year, and I'm very much hoping that Nintendo can blow me away tomorrow.
we will see. We will see. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. We've rambled on long enough. Future episodes will not be this long. E3, it's big and full of much news, and we skipped so much stuff just to get through in even remotely timely fashion. But so yeah, future episodes they'll probably be half an hour, 40 minutes. They will not be this long. But thank you so much for joining us, Donnie. Do you have any closing thoughts,
I just want Nintendo to
dude?
amaze
We
me
will get
tomorrow.
Nintendo. And we'll talk about Nintendo on our episode next week, probably, along with any E3 stuff that we missed that we feel like we really need to talk about.
If
So,
Nintendo if Nintendo makes an announcement and they for a new Smash character. If Nintendo announces their next Smash character and says
Better
that
be
they will
Keanu
be
Reeves.
available tonight, Keanu Reeves, everyone who listens to this owes me $5.
Dude, all 2 people who are both us. That's us.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next week to talk Nintendo's, the wrap-ups of E3, and any other gaming news that hits us between now and then. Thank you so much for watching. Oof, tongue twister. Oof. This has been Weak Point Week or Weak Point. This has been HitPoint Weekly, and we'll see you guys next time. Jesus Christ.
This has been HitPoint Weekly.
This has been Weak Point.
That's what I was trying to say. This has been Weak Point Hitly.
This is Donny K with Weak Point Hitly signing off. All right, we'll see you guys next week.